Well, if this is an update, I think would be more pertinent to veterans more than anything because it looks like Obama, through Obamacare, if you want to call it the Affordable Health Care Act, is wants to make it more difficult for people to get guns by labeling them having a mental illness diagnosis or whatever you want to call it. But I suspect he would more heavily concentrate on veterans because, first off, they'd be more inclined to protect the Bill of Rights. And number two, they'd be more vulnerable because if you're in a combat situation or any type of stress situation, you know, you could be subjected to things and they could be maybe suggesting to you that, oh, you got this problem or that problem. So once you get labeled something, they could say you can't have a gun or restrict your rights to have guns and everything. Now, one thing I have to say about the psychiatric profession in general, oh man, I think it's one of the biggest snake oil freaking professions going. The reason I'm saying that, I'll give you solid reasons because actually they do not give solid reasons per se in their diagnosis because they might have this set of codes that they go by to bill the medical people for or whatever. But there's many catch-all phrases in those codes where they say not otherwise specified. But the reality is they will just like look at a person and say, you have this, you have that. And you go to some other one and say, you have this, you have that. It's not like I can measure something and then that shows you have a problem per se. Because supposedly, actually, well, there's different theories on this stuff. Some of them say it's all behavioral. Some of them say it's chemical, whatever. But, you know, the thing is where it's something where it's more scientific, it would be like a neurologist would actually say, this is what's wrong with you because I measured something in your brain that was off and now I need to prescribe you something to get that in balance or whatever. Whereas a psychiatrist will just like make a subjective opinion by looking at them, which leaves it wide open for Obamacare or anybody in the healthcare system that's a veteran, you know, it's VA or whatever, that can get, they can just look at them and say, well, you're having this problem, you're depressed, you're this, you're that, or whatever, and immediately take away gun rights because it's not like a test where like I take a blood test and my cholesterol is 150 or it's 250 or whatever, right? No, it's the psychiatrist looks at the person, makes a judgment call, and you know, a dozen different psychiatrists will come up with different answers. It's not like a neurologist might take a test and say, well, we noticed your brain patterns in this area are different, and then it's more like legit, you know what I'm saying? But I consider psychiatry and psychology to be really big-time snake oil professions, but they're going to use those professions to take away gun rights, and especially I think they're going to concentrate heavily on veterans because they are in the VA system too. Now, I don't know how this is actually going to be implemented because different people, I mean, it doesn't mean because Obama wants something a certain way, it doesn't mean everybody's going to go along with it. That's a doctor, you know, but you never know. I mean, sometimes that's how things work. I mean, sometimes people go along with what the best is for their career too. And there's always a few of them around, right? But I just want to make some another thing as an adjunct to this because some people do actually suffer from depression and things like that. You know, this is one of your better catch-alls. I put this up there a bunch of times. Coconut oil. You know, actually in the old days, they used to use this for schizophrenic and people had seizures and stuff like that because it raises the ketones in the brain. But this does a lot of different stuff. Actually, if you take enough of this, it actually works as an antiviral. But it has to be a good 50 milliliters, which is like 1.7 ounces, at least a couple ounces, and maybe up to 100 to 200 milliliters a day, constantly to actually have that antiviral effect. But it's proven, though, you know, even in medical science, the high ketonic diet actually protects your brain in a lot of ways from, brain fog. They call it Alzheimer's. It helps, gives you clearer thoughts, and it protects against depression sometimes. So, that's worth a try because it does have a lot of different uses besides that one specific use. And there's no real side effects to it, like if you're taking a prescription. So, if I'm telling people to beware of being falsely labeled having a mental issue because they don't want you to have a gun, and maybe you do have some kind of problem because, you were in the military and you have all this post-traumatic stress syndrome or something. That's not a bad thing to do. It's good for your health anyway, all around. There's a lot of reasons it's good for your health, the coconut oil, but it also protects the brain. Another one out there that's been around in science is niacin. Now, this is a specific type of niacin. It's inositol nicotinate. I'll put the name. That's the specific type you should get. It's flush-free, but there's two different types of flush-free. This is a better one. This is the one you'd want to take. And actually, you're taking, if you're working, for people with schizophrenia, they've shown in medical studies. I don't have the reference in front of me. I read it a while ago. I'm sorry I don't have the reference, but you could probably Google it. That taking a few thousand milligrams, that's a lot actually. A few thousand milligrams of this stuff a day will actually have an effect. Actually have a good effect. It's very cheap though. That's the thing. I mean, it's something you might want to try. It sure isn't going to break the bank. So I want to offer a solution or a possible solution, I don't know, maybe to experiment with that's cheap. And the coconut oil has a lot of other benefits. Even if it doesn't work to alleviate brain fog like it's touted to do and things like that, it still has some other good effects. But beware that Mr. Obama, President Obama, is actually, he's a Marxist. I don't know what the hell to say. He's a Marxist, basically. He wants to take away people's rights left and right. And I think he's working for the global plantation. He's a traitor, man. But he's looking to do it in a coy, slick way, which is by through the healthcare system. And I think one of the ones that would be more vulnerable to that would be the veterans. But I know there's people that do have problems that are veterans, though. So, I'm not saying that, everybody's going to be perfect. But, in lieu of that, it might be a good idea to try some of these natural things. It might have some effect on it. And I'm personally one that tries to avoid any pharmaceuticals if necessary. But sometimes a pharmaceutical is absolutely necessary, so I'm not against them. But they do have side effects. So, the alternative can't fix everything there is. That's the way it is. But that might be a smart idea. But, the one thing is to probably attack back if you get a diagnosis where they say you're this, you're that, and whatever, you might want to attack it back in this manner, is that they really can't empirically, scientifically prove, in many cases, that there's this problem. If somebody just looks at you and says, your speech is rambling, or you're talking too fast, and they just say something like, and they label you a certain way for that reason, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Because, you could actually pick out various things. You could say, like, a person does not talk enough. Person's, maybe if they're extroverted, they got this problem. If they're introverted, they have that problem. These guys, it's a freaking racket, man. They get, paid $200 an hour to freaking play that game. So, I see the financial incentive for them to be that way, too. Plus, I think a lot of them are actually on a power trip. Psychiatrists and psychologists. I don't like those people, man. But from what I've seen, it's like pure snake oil. I'm a very scientific, mathematical person. If a person could measure a person's brain and say, this is the reason this person is exhibiting this kind of this abnormal behavior is because these brain waves are showing up, and you have this data that actually shows there's an normality in the brain. Then it makes sense, and that would be like a neurologist, and they would say, I want to prescribe this to fix that abnormality. Then you have like this scientific data. It's almost like, if your cholesterol is too high, we take a measurement. I'm not saying, I know cholesterol could be a good thing to even have it high, but we take a measurement, a scientific measurement, then we prescribe something to bring it down. Whereas like a psychologist or psychiatrist would say, well, I think your blood is looking redder today or something or whatever. It doesn't, I could tell from this pulse that something's wrong here, It's like really freaking bullshit. These guys, and then they set up a whole bunch of codes to say all this garbage, and then they say, if they can't find something wrong, then they say not otherwise specified. It's a crock of shit to sell drugs. That's all they are, drug dealers. So, they need but those are to be the people that Obama will use to actually take away your gun rights by just labeling you something subjectively. So, the real counterattack to that is to force them to use scientific empirical evidence, And actually, if, say, for instance, they prove that your brain patterns or whatever, your, I don't know what this stuff would be, but say you have this beta alpha wave or something. I'm just making that up. I don't know what that is, but say they come up with scientifically a measurement that something's off. Well, if you take this pill and it goes normal, why wouldn't you be able to have a gun then, right? Right? So, this is the way you need to counter these arguments from Obama and Obamacare because, you have to actually counteract them with pure logic. But I would suggest to any veterans, this is not bad. This is a deal and a half. I paid $10 for this on Amazon, and it clears brain fog. It could help lower your cholesterol. It's one of those. Actually, coconut oil has been around for thousands of years. If you look in the Malaysian and Filipino established medicine, they tout it up a lot more. The Western established medicine, just a little bit. I think that's one of your legit alternative things. It's not really alternative. It's been around for thousands of years. So, if you feel like you're depressed or something like that, those are two things you might want to take. Niacin and coconut oil, and give it a try. And if they don't work for you, it's not like you're out a lot of money, and they are nutrients. So it's, not a bad idea.